Starting in the 1880s and really taking off after World War I, people began to lose their optimism and faith. Before 1914, people believed in individual rights, progress, and reason. Yet critics began to attack these views, rejecting the power of rationality and progress. After the destructive war, the public adopted these unhappy ideas as well, and began to see humans as naturally irrational and violent. The rise of the Great Depression and dictatorships also contributed to the rise in pessimistic views. This time is known as the Age of Anxiety. A new wave of thinkers dominated, challenging the general faith of the rational human mind. Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher, is one such example. Nietzsche rejected the Christian faith, saying, "God is dead." He believed that only a certain amount of people could come away from everyday life and realize how useless it was, that the West repressed humans' true emotions and passionate instinct. He saw the accepted morals as outdated and restricting. Such ideas were also seen in France with Henri Bergson as the main leader in philosophy. He taught that rationality and science should not be used to explain the world, substituted instead for personal experiences. To Bergson, humans more often understood religion than science or mathematics. In the English-speaking countries of Europe, logical empiricism developed as the overreaching idea. It centered on the teachings of Ludwig Wittgenstein, who rejected all traditional philosophy. He claimed that philosophy was only a logical clarification of thoughts and thus could not be proven. According to Wittgenstein, God, freedom, and morality were senseless and a waste of time. Of what one cannot speak, one must keep silent. In the continental European countries, existentialism arose. Existentialists were atheists searching for moral values in a world of anxiety. They were inspired by Nietzsche, who rejected God as well. Jean-Paul Sartre, a leading existentialist, said that human beings had simply appeared on Earth. Without God, humans were alone and had to give meaning to their lives through courageous actions. Some other leaders of existentialism were Martin Heidegger, Karl Jaspers, and Albert Camus. During the Age of Anxiety, a revival of Christianity occurred. The loss of faith in human reason and progress led to a rediscovery of Christian ideas. Soren Kierkegaard, who lived during the 19th century, inspired the return of faith. He had accepted his own shortcomings and committed himself to God. Karl Barth, one of Kierkegaard's followers, wished to see a return to the religious excitement and intensity of the Reformation. Marcel and Maritain were two others who thought the religion was the path back to hope and optimism. Between 1920 and 1950, many people who had before been atheists returned back to Christianity. These included T.S. Eliot, Evelyn Waugh, C.S. Lewis, Carl Stern, Graham Greene, and Max Planck.
During the Age of Anxiety, new physics developed. New physics was comprised of scientific advancements that led to the general public's feeling of confusion and fear in the face of relative ideas that they did not understand. These scientific advancements include the discovery of radium and radiation by the Curies, the development of quantum physics by Max Planck, which brought up new questions about the difference between matter and energy, Einstein's theory of relativity, which terrified people, Ernest Rutherford's proof that the atom could be split, which blew everyone's minds, and Werner Heisenberg's principle of uncertainty about electron speed and position. All of these scientific ideas struck fear into the Europeans, who did not know how to deal with the uncertainty of the world. Even more disturbing to society than new physics were the findings of psychologist Sigmund Freud. He rejected rationality with the idea of subconscious or id, which directed people's lives and personality without their knowledge. People were naturally irrational. He also investigated what he called ego, or rationalizing consciousness, and the superego, or moral values. According to Freud, Western morals repressed the natural id, which led to the development of complexes and insanity. Freud encouraged people to explore their ids through sexual behavior. Literature in the 20th century was pessimistic just like everything else, and often focused on characters and their natural irrationality from a single viewpoint. Marcel Proust is one example of a novelist during the Age of Anxiety. He lived like a hermit in order to recall his memories and write about them. Authors such as Virginia Woolf, William Faulkner, and James Joyce often used their stream of consciousness technique in their writing. T.S. Eliot was another popular author during this time and wanted to write a few about hope for salvation. During the Age of Anxiety, functionalism appeared in architecture. This new principle was geared toward making buildings functional, sturdy, useful, and not necessarily beautiful. In the United States, Louis Sullivan was the most prominent architect to use of cheap steel and reinforced concrete to make the first skyscrapers. In Germany, the Bauhaus School of Architecture was developed and then led first by Walter Gropius and then Miles van der Rohe. Modern painting also changed during this age. It began with the rise of Impressionism or Surrealism, as shown in the painting by Monet, Renoir, and Pissarro. This style morphed into more abstract expressionism with artists Van Gogh, Gauguin, Cezanne, and Matisse. Then Picasso founded the new movement of Cubism. Kandinsky led art even farther from reality, introducing Dadaism and Surrealism, which rejected everything that had come before. Dadists used strange symbols and painted strange things, such as the Mona Lisa with the mustache. Modern music also lost its realistic touch during the Age of Anxiety. It was characterized by distant sounds in the orchestra and pornographic scenes on the theatrical stage. The most famous of the new musicians was Arnold Schoenberg. The introduction of movies during the Age of Anxiety also had a huge effect on all people. Movies especially boomed in the United States, beginning with Mack Sennett. Charlie Chaplin was the main star of the movies and brought hilarity and optimism to the otherwise depressing world. In the 1920s, Germany began to take part in the film industry, mainly for use as propaganda. The main filmmaker for Hitler was a woman, Leni Riefenstahl. Dictators, especially Hitler and Mussolini, also used radio as propaganda technique. The Age of Anxiety was characterized by depression and pessimism, as well as a rejection of human rationality.